So, a few things that happened today. Obviously, we have another state, number 13. So now Kennedy is now on the ballot, or at least has enough signatures to be completely accurate in 13 states. Oops, mic check. Good. So that's good. So 13 down. How many more to go? Use your math. 37? And then we also have President Trump came out today with a few new videos on Truth Social. And yes, one of them was about Kennedy. So I'll be covering that a little bit too. So very fun times here. Very fun things that are happening in the Kennedy campaign. So let's go and look at that first because this is awesome. Number 13, big number 13 here. This is the press release from Kennedy24.com, released today, May 9th, 2024. Kennedy officially on ballot in Oklahoma. Isn't this awesome? Isn't this just amazing here, folks? I find it fascinating. Alrighty, so with that said, I'll go ahead and read a little bit of this. And 1 second, if you don't mind. There we go. Okay, Kennedy officially on ballot in Oklahoma. What can we say about that? More great news. Number 13. So let me switch this here. Make this a little bit bigger for my old eyes. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy announced today he is officially on the ballot in Oklahoma. The campaign filed its statement of candidacy and electors and paid the $35,000 fee to secure ballot access. I have lived in Oklahoma all my life, said Kenyon Morgan, Kennedy campaign elector and volunteer. I know the people of Oklahoma will welcome the opportunity to have an independent choice this fall. People are looking for a leader who will heal the divide, protect our constitutional rights, end the chronic disease epidemic, and restore the middle class. The Kennedy-Shanahan campaign has collected all the signatures needed for ballot access in 13 states, totaling 148 electoral votes, 28% of the 538 total electoral votes nationwide. Today, RFK Jr. was placed on the ballot in my home state of Oklahoma, said campaign volunteer Tammy Mitchell. For me, it sparked a fire. This gives so many of us hope that the next president will be a voice for the people of our great country. Kennedy-Shanahan ticket is officially on the ballot in 5 states. Those 5 officially are Utah, Michigan, California, Delaware, and now Oklahoma. The campaign has collected enough signatures for ballot access in 8 other states. Those states are New Hampshire, Nevada, Hawaii, North Carolina, Idaho, Nebraska, Iowa, and Ohio. So, the Kennedy campaign has launched a robust ballot access plan to ensure the Kennedy-Shanahan ticket is on the ballot in all 50 states. We have field teams, volunteers, legal teams, paid circulators, supporters, and strategists ready to get the job done, said Stephanie Spear, campaign press secretary. We are exceeding all our ballot access benchmarks and will announce new states each week. Well, in this one, they've announced a few in the same day and the few in the same week. So that's pretty interesting. All right, so that is the latest on Team Kennedy. And so that's in the news section. You can always go to the press. That seems like the most recent press. The campaign coverage has some good stuff here too. If you want to see some of the most recent things about the campaign coverage, this is a probably good video. I would bet on that. And then the interview section. So these are the 3 top ways you can keep in touch with Kennedy. What is he doing? What are his interviews? Who's interviewing him? This is a great section here. Make sure you check out this interview section. Now, with that great news, we can then flip back to President Donald J. Trump, who again went after RFK Jr. on Truth Social in a 5-minute video. Again, going after RFK Jr. He also went after Biden and went after a lot of other topics. But the two clips that I want to play here are how how Donald Trump, President Trump, makes a video about RFK Jr., does not even acknowledge this this debate that may happen in a couple weeks here at the Libertarian Party convention. But he again makes a short video targeting Joe Biden and actually targeting him and challenging him to a debate. So again, it's Trump wanting to debate Joe Biden. He's not wanting to debate RFK Jr. That's a big deal for me. I hope that's a big deal for you. And we got the Trump hat here, looking good 2024. We are ready. We are ready now. Aren't you ready? When I say we, I don't mean me. All right, so let me pull that up. That's what she said. And let's share this tab. Which one do I want to play first? Well, let's look at him going after RFK Jr. That's always a fun time, right? All right, let me give that a like. I literally just put this out like right now. Only 480. Darn, that's too bad. We call. Oh, you know what? Probably because I didn't do a high res version. Okay, I'll come back and do a high res version later. Good enough.
RFK Jr. is a Democrat plant, a radical left liberal who's been put in place in order to help crooked Joe Biden. The worst.
Oh, I missed my double screens. There we go. There's the man of the hour. Too sweet to be sour.
RFK Jr. is a Democrat plant, a radical left liberal who's been put in place in order to help crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of the United States, get reelected. A lot of people think that Jr. is a conservative. He's not. He's more liberal than anybody running on the Democrat side.
Interesting how he's calling him Junior. He likes to call him Junior for some reason.
For Junior would essentially be a wasted protest vote that could swing either way, but would only swing against the Democrats if Republicans knew the true story about him. Junior is totally anti-gun and extreme environmentalist.
No, he's not.
Who makes the Green News scammers look very conservative by comparison. A big-time taxer, he wants to tax you.
No,
an open border advocate. He wants those borders to be
Come
wide
on.
open.
Where is Trump getting this stuff? This is a smart dude. He knows better than this. RFK is not about any of this stuff. He's gonna call him. Well, I'll just let it play on, but it's not true. A lot of the stuff Trump is saying here is just not true.
For more people to come in from prisons and mental institutions, and he's anti-military and he's anti-vet.
No, he's not.
An extreme liberal. He's radical left, and radicalized also are his family. They'll never allow him to be a Republican. They've said that we will not let him be a Republican. And his chief funder is the VP candidate that nobody ever heard of.
He doesn't
except
want to
her ex-husband who's been.
Did you hear what Trump said? That his family will never allow him to be a Republican. He doesn't want to be a Republican. He's a Democrat. He's a real Democrat.
Funder is the VP candidate that nobody ever heard of, except her ex-husband. He's anti-vet. He's an extreme liberal. He's radical left, and radicalized also are his family. They'll never allow him to be a Republican. They've said that we will not let him be a Republican. And his chief funder is the VP candidate that nobody ever heard of, except her ex-husband, who's been stripped of a big chunk of his cash. And he knows exactly what she's all about. She's even more liberal than RFK Jr. She puts herself down as a businesswoman or maybe a doctor, and actually she probably is, because she did a hell of a big number on the husband. That's her business. I guess you could say that she's right, however, because what she's done is given a lot of money to the Democrat causes and the ultra-liberal causes. She's going to be a big hindrance, because when people saw that she was selected, they realized that Junior was indeed a radical left. She's more liberal than Junior by far, not a serious person, and only a pot of cash to help her get her no chance candidate on the ballot is what got her.
No chance. That's a Vince McMahon reference right there. Come on.
There in the first place. I lived with RFK Jr. in New York and watched him convince Governor Cuomo to make environmental moves that were outright nasty and really bad for the state. We have the highest energy costs anywhere in the country, and that's because of RFK Jr. He was a disaster. Upstate New York was not allowed to drill or frack as Ohio, Pennsylvania, and others ripped off New York energy.
Now,
Because of
Kennedy
this,
has made some comments recently about fracking. He was asked about fracking. He's like, I'm not against fracking, but they have to pay too. If they're going to frack and they're going to ruin the environment, there has to be consequences for it. They have to also pay for it. So Trump is saying a lot of half truths here about RFK Jr., in my opinion.
prices have skyrocketed all over that part of the country.
The worst one is coming up, though.
And frankly, it's affected New England. It's affected everybody. But all of this was the policy of RFK Jr. He doesn't want any drilling whatsoever.
He also is a policy. He's not a politician. What policy is he making?
He doesn't want anything. He wants everything to come to a halt, and you'd find that out. But the fact is, he is a radical left person. So Republicans, get it out of your mind that you're going to vote for this guy because he's conservative.
This is pretty interesting. So Trump knows exactly what is going on, that RFK Jr. is appealing to the conservatives. Is that making Trump a little bit nervous here for 2024? Possibly. We know, we've seen how Trump goes after people, what he does when he goes after people. And here we see kind of the same thing. It's Donald Trump going after RFK Jr. Kennedy 2024, Trump 2024. It's interesting to me. It's all very fascinating. I find it all fascinating to see the road that these two great people are on. It's gonna piss somebody off.
It's not. And by the way,
here we go.
He said the other night that vaccines are fine. He said it on a show.
Kennedy has said that a long time, that he's not anti-vax. So Trump is buying into some nonsense, I think, about RFK Jr. And Trump knows better. I think he's just listening to some bad people once again.
Television show that vaccines are fine. He's all for them. And that's what he said. And for those of you that want to vote because you think he's an anti-vaxxer, he's not really an anti-vaxxer.
That's true. And see, but the thing is, Trump is making that seem like that is a bad thing. And from a lot of people's points of view, it is. That an anti-vaxxer, being an anti-vaxxer is a good thing. I'm one of those people. But Kennedy is not an anti-vaxxer. He is not. He has made his views very, very clear. And those views are the ones that YouTube doesn't like, because it kind of throws them off in a tailspin. Like, wait a minute, I thought you said this. Okay, so you're not an anti-vaxxer, but we should look into it. He doesn't blindly just think that everybody should be vaccinated, nor does he think that we should be forced to be vaccinated either. It's a choice from Kennedy's view. And a lot of his family, he said, are vaccinated. He was vaccinated up until a certain point. And so Trump is trying to hit this. It's kind of a show. I don't want to say a show of desperation, but talk about misinformation. It's not what I want to hear from President Trump. I don't think Trump going after RFK Jr. is what I want to hear. I don't believe it's what maybe any of the other Trump supporters want to hear. I don't know. But I've also come in contact with some Trump supporters that do not like RFK Jr. So maybe that's what they want to hear. It's not what I want to hear. But then again, that's just me. About a minute left here.
That's only his political moment. He said it the other night. He's okay with the vaccine. Their energy costs are the highest in the United States.
But Trump has said that he's okay with the vaccine too. He just doesn't believe that it should be forced on people, just like RFK Jr. But Trump's okay with the vaccine. It's very strange.
State in New England because of this guy, with the exception of California and Gavin Newsom, who's the worst governor in the state's history and one of the worst governors in the history of our country. I'd even take Biden over Jr. because
That's
our
crazy.
country would.
He said, I would even take Biden over Jr. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. I mean, to me, this really shows that Trump really is starting to see RFK Jr. as a big threat. For him to say that he'd take, you know why he would take Biden over Kennedy? Because he knows that Kennedy can actually beat him. Biden can't. That was an interesting quote. I literally laughed when I first heard that, when he said that he would take Biden over Kennedy. That's crazy. That's crazy. He would rather debate Biden over Kennedy. I believe that. He would rather be in a one-on-one competition with Biden than with Kennedy. But as far as presenting good choices for the American people, I don't believe that Trump really thinks that Biden is a better pick, that Biden is better for the country than RFK Jr. Not buying that at all. Not after all the things that Trump has said about Kennedy at just recently over the summer, over last summer, within a year. And now the tone is changing. This was the worst case scenario for me as a Trump supporter, as someone who will vote for President Trump in November 5th, I believe. I do not like what I'm hearing here, but that's okay. Doesn't matter. Not about me. Got some nice teeth, though. Nice color.
And one of the worst governors in the history of our country. I'd even take Biden over Jr. because our country would last about a year or two longer than it would with Jr. It would collapse almost immediately.
That's crazy.
And his family, a radical left, a crazy left.
I mean, a lot of the radical people, a lot of the radical Kennedy family is working for Biden. They're not working for Kennedy, for RFK Jr., and they wouldn't want to work for RFK Jr. How? I mean, maybe they would. I don't know, but that would say a lot about them. How easily they could flip to just keep their clout, to keep their White House clout. If they would flip from Biden to Kennedy. But the radicals that Trump is talking about are the ones that are working for Biden currently, most likely. And they are the ones who are against RFK Jr. So Trump would rather see them. He'd rather see 4 more years of Biden than 4 years of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I don't like it. I'm glad that he is sharing his views on this topic, but I do not like it at all. It rubs me the wrong way. Oh, I don't like it. I really don't. But and this is one of my biggest fears about if there is an actual debate, is that I will start leaning more towards Kennedy than Trump. And hey, if that happens, that happens. But my goal is to vote for President Trump. Everything they've done to this man and everything that I've seen him do from 2016 to 2020, I just feel like there's something different. There's really something different than all the last presidents in my lifetime. President Trump is very, very different. And I think RFK Jr. can take that to the next level in 2028 and in 2032. I will be voting for RFK Jr. then if he runs. But again, it's a fascinating year. Everything is up for grabs here, including my vote, I guess. But none of this is convincing me that I should choose Trump over Kennedy. I'll just say that.
A bunch of lunatics would take over and our country will diverge.
A bunch of lunatics would take over.
Radical left, a crazy.
I mean, this man, when he took over in 2016 and then was like, Henry Kissinger shows up, Chris Christie shows up, that black chick from The Apprentice shows up. I can't remember her name. John Bolton shows up. The swamp creatures are all right there, taking their spot, what they believe is their privileged spot, their earned spot in the early Trump administration. Dr. Birx shows up. Anthony Fauci ends up showing up. That's a little bit different, I think, Anthony Fauci and Dr. Birx, because they were not part of, they were already kind of there. That's a whole nother, that's a weird issue of where did these guys come from? Where did Anthony Fauci come from? How does he end up on a stage next to Trump? And it did not take Trump very long to figure out Anthony Fauci is full of crap. But and then we saw the flip of how everybody flipped against Trump. And I believe once Trump realized he had surrounded himself by the swamp creatures, he had to drain the swamp because the swamp was drowning him. Probably in 2017, maybe even early 2018. That's what I believe here. So, but for Trump to talk about the people he's surrounding himself with, Trump has surrounded himself with a lot of swamp creatures, and that's proven. We don't know if Kennedy will do the same. And, based on his vice presidential pick, you may say, yeah, Kennedy's just going to be the same. He's going to put his own version of swamp creatures in there. We'll see.
He left, a bunch of lunatics would take over and our country will die very quickly. So RFK's views on vaccines are fake, as is everything else about his candidacy.
If you've read RFK Jr.'s views on vaccines, they're not fake. They're genuine. They're actually life-changing. They may change your mind changing. They may change your mind about vaccines, whether you're pro or whether you're no. It may change your mind when you read Kennedy's books about vaccines, and you read it and you look at, if you can find it. Probably won't find it on YouTube, but if you can find his views on vaccines, it's an interesting view, and it's more center. I would say it's more towards the center than towards any radical view or anything like that. He's not an anti-vaxxer, and he's not a pro-vaxxer either. He's right there in the middle, saying we need to look at what is going into our body. This is what we want to hear from our president, I think, right? Read the insert. What is in the vaccine? What are the short-term effects? What are the long-term? Why can't we sue? Where is the accountability? I think is the biggest thing that Kennedy has really gone after, the accountability. Because if they're confident that the vaccines work, then the accountability that they have and should have wouldn't be a big problem for them. But if they know there's no accountability, that just creates a bad scenario for bad players to do very bad things. It's common sense. Trump knows better. He's a common sense guy too. And there's so many clips that I'm glad that are the part of the first chapter of this book where Trump is, praising Kennedy, and then all of a sudden he flips. It's the same thing that a lot of people have done to President Trump. He's doing the same thing to Kennedy now. It's interesting.
He is not a Republican, so don't think you're going to vote for him.
He's, of course, he's not a Republican. He never said he was. Kennedy does not want to be a Republican. He is a real Democrat, and he's an independent. But it seems like Trump is worried that Republicans are going to vote for Kennedy because they do not want to vote for Biden, obviously. But I don't believe that a lot of Republicans are going to vote for Kennedy either. They're going to see Trump as the best choice from their view. But we'll see. Only time will tell. The numbers, the fraud, the shenanigans, all that will be some clear signs of what really happens in the fall.
Feel good. He's a radical left Democrat. Let the Democrats have RFK Jr. They deserve him.
Yeah, they deserve him. Wow. So he's still kind of playing to that two base, the Democrats versus the Republican scenario, which we know this is deeper. And I think Trump knows this too. He knows this is a lot deeper. But now what I want to do before I go here is just play really quickly President Trump. Now look at how he talks about Joe Biden.
Dear Joe, now that you've committed to debate on the ratings challenged Howard Stern show, let's set it up right now. I'm ready to go anywhere that you are. We could do it in D.C., even pinpoint the White House, or in New York when your radical left fascists are finished with the election interference against your political opponent, me, because we're going to win and we're going to win big. In any event, let's get it done. The people of our country deserve to know why you have allowed 15 million people and probably many more than that into our country from prisons and mental institutions, and terrorists are pouring into our country. They're invading our country, and you're letting them do it with your open border policy. And it's a shame what you're doing to the United States of America. You're destroying our beautiful, beautiful nation. Another thing I want to talk about is your policy of electric cars, where you want everybody to be mandated electric car in the very near future, and at least 50% in the next 5 years. Those cars don't go far. They're very expensive, and they'll all be made in China. And I hope you're listening, United Auto Workers, because your union head is destroying you. They're all going to be made in China. We're not going to have any jobs in Michigan unless I'm elected. And if I'm elected, you're going to have more auto jobs than you have had for 25 years. We're going to start building cars again in Michigan and other states. But you're allowing also energy prices to skyrocket, our economy to crash, and inflation to reach levels that we have never seen before. It's called the Biden inflation tax, and it's a 50% tax that you've imposed on our people in just 3 short years. Maybe you have a reason for this, and you'll have a chance to talk about it. But let's get to the debate right now. The American people have the right to know. Anytime, anywhere, any place. Let's go, Joe. Let's debate.
There it is. The debate should be on then. So we will see. But again, he's not acknowledging RFK Jr. and RFK Jr.'s possible role here. Not as a spoiler, as I'll probably play in the next show. I really want to try to keep this at 30 minutes tonight. But as a serious candidate, as someone who can actually win and become the next president of the greatest country ever on God's green earth. So with that said, Kennedy now has 13 states in the bag, and not too many more to go, really. But Oklahoma is a big one. He's going to be doing a rally in Texas. That's a big one. I haven't heard any updates about New York. That's going to be a big one. Florida is going to be another big state that Kennedy needs to get ballot access on. And let's do what we can to help Kennedy get on the ballot, just on the ballot. This should not be a big deal. This should not be a big threat. And for anyone that wants to see the debate between Kennedy and Trump, think about your state and how easily you could help get Kennedy on the ballot. It's pretty easy. It's going to be pretty easy statewide. Go to Kennedy24.com. Look up your state. There's volunteers. They do meetings. They do Zoom calls. They're always doing something, and you can find out what is happening in your state. They have their own little chat rooms, their own little groups. So each state does have their own little group. So if you just want to see what are they doing in my state, what can I do to just sign up to get Kennedy's name on the ballot? You have to be a registered voter. That's really about it. That's all. So please think about it. God bless you all. Remember that Jesus Christ loves you. And until next time, Kennedy and Trump 2024. Boom.